Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, guests and visitors. Have you ever wondered what it was like to give up a steady paying job to pursue a career in entrepreneurship, keeping your fingers crossed if you've made the right decision? By 2013, Nick was trapped in an 80-hour-a-week legal career in New York, missing key moments with his young family. On June 7, 2013, he quit, took a $125,000 transition job decrease, and began exploring entrepreneurship. In the spring of 2015, he found ghostwriting, landed his first client by year's end without using freelancer sites, and quickly scaled. By mid-2016, he replaced his law income and has supported his family through ghostwriting ever since. Since then, Nick has founded or acquired 7 ventures: publishing, digital marketing, online education, consulting, events, and a bookstore to empower creators and entrepreneurs with tools they need to succeed. Everyone, let's please give it up for Nick Pavlidis.
Well, thanks so much. And you pronounced my name perfectly.
Thank you, Nick, and welcome to the show. And I like to open up with a very off-the-wall question that has nothing to do with you or your business or podcasting. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
100%, but pepperoni, not ham.
Pepperoni, not ham. Okay.
Much better
And
combo.
okay. Yeah, I'm from Hawaii. I like pineapples, but just not on pizza. That's a whole different animal there. And what's something you can tell us about yourself that other people may not know?
Well, I was dead at the scene of a car accident my senior year of high school and have virtually no childhood memories.
Wow. Okay. So speaking of podcasting, I mentioned your family earlier. You have a podcast called 5 Minutes with Dad, I believe, that you do with your kids. Could you please tell us a little bit more about that and how you came up with this concept?
Well, I didn't come up with the concept. My 3-year-old son came up with the concept at the time. He was 3.5 years old, and I had, it was right after I quit my job. I was working at a large law firm in New York City and then took that transition job. I took a $125,000 a year pay cut, like you mentioned in the intro, and just to get that steady schedule. And I was working 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. Still a lot, but it gave me some structure that I used to figure out what I wanted to do with my life from an entrepreneurial perspective. And so I had convinced myself that I needed to say yes to family more. And so I was sitting at the table and I was thinking of starting a podcast. So I said to my wife at dinner, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. What do you think? She said, do whatever you want. Sure. And my son, my daughter was 2 years old. My son was 3.5, about to be 4 at the time. And he said, Dad, what's a podcast? And I said, well, it's kind of like a radio show. This is 2014. It's kind of like a radio show, but it's on the computer. And he said, can I have one? And I said, sure. And so I hosted it with him and my daughter from when they were 2 and 4 years old until my daughter sort of took the lead several years later. But we have about 260 episodes. We've been in Parents Magazine, moms.com, board teachers all over the internet. It's a personal growth and leadership podcast for kids. We have a whole lot of fun with it. We haven't recorded a lot lately because I don't want it to be super pressure, and they all have activities now. My son just turned 16 and my daughter's turning 14 in September. So it's just a fun little project that we did that's brought a lot of smiles to people's faces.
Yeah, and I think it's so cool when I stumbled across it. I'm like, oh, he's doing them with his kids. I think that is so cool. And the one I heard was the one about how even kids can make money. I thought that was pretty one
Yeah.
was pretty cool.
Thank you.
So I heard about you through Chris Komitsos, and he was who I met at the time, the first CEO, I guess, of Podfest, and you've relieved him of that title now. So please tell us about your role as the CEO of Podfest Podfest, but most of all, tell us about this extravaganza of an event, how it got started, and why we should attend.
Sure. Well, Podfest is the largest independent podcaster conference in the world. We have a couple thousand independent podcasters, and that's it's not that we don't have people from the corporate podcasting world, but we really focus on independent podcasters. Chris Krimitsos founded it in 2012, 2013, and we were very fortunate to have hosted our event in 2020 before everything shut down. And so we have continuously operated our live event for now going on 12, 13 years. And it's just a great vibe. It's a great place. I have a one sentence business plan in everything I do. And that's, if I help enough people become successful, I never have to worry about my own success. And so you mentioned some of the businesses I'm involved in, a publishing company. If I help enough authors become successful, we never have to worry about our own success. My ghostwriting agency, if I help enough thought leaders become successful, I never have to worry about my own success. And I've been able to grow my podcast agency. I've written 7 Wall Street Journal bestsellers, 8 USA Today bestsellers, more than 100 books. I've helped authors make a whole lot of money, and I've spent a total of $22.15 advertising my business. And that was just as a joke to send donuts to a radio station to see if they'd mention my name, and they did twice. And so what we do at Podfest is we focus on helping independent podcasters become successful. So we learn what that means to the podcasters. And a lot of that is to be able to express themselves, to be able to be themselves, and to be able to monetize it without needing a large audience. So we teach all about AI, all about authorship, all about recording, all about video, everything that independent podcasters need. We have more than 100 speakers over 3 days in Orlando. We're focused on Orlando now. And we also get people in rooms together. And so it's a networking opportunity. I like to say we have all of the resources, information, and people that independent podcasters need to be successful within those 4 walls of Podfest.
Yeah, and I remembered I attended my first one. I want to say it was 2019, and I remembered I won this device called a Tascam. They had just pulled my name out, and I barely even thought about podcasting. And I went up to Chris. I was like, "How am I supposed to use it?" I mean, I was clueless about it. Finally, I figured it out and figured out, oh, okay. And it got to the point where I didn't really need it when I got comfortable with podcast. I'm like, it's nice to have, but I don't think I need it. But it was just nice to know that I could have used it, because at the time I was living with my mom. I was like, I don't know where I'm going to put this or how to use it. So I thought that was pretty cool when I won that. Now you did say that you're focusing on Orlando, but didn't you also have it in Tampa at one time?
Yeah, we've had it several times in Tampa. The last few have been in Orlando. In February or January, we'll be back in Orlando, and then in 2027 we'll be in Orlando as well. We do other events in other places. For example, this August 21st to the 23rd of 2025, we're doing VidFest, which is several hundred people all talking about video content and learning and networking about video content. That's going to be in Atlanta. And then at the same place, at the same time, we're doing an event called Future Proof Author. And so that's how to future-proof your thought leadership through creative authorship and creating revenue streams that are more durable than some of the ways people are attempting to make money these days with thought leaders.
Okay, and is this the first year you're going to start expanding, or is that going to be Podfest moving forward?
Podfest moving forward, we're going to be doing several events. The challenge, one of the reasons we haven't expanded where we are or moved around is because we know what we do really, really well. And we know we can get 2,000 people and a whole bunch of brands together with a special experience in Orlando. We do some small events. We do 50 events, 15 virtual, about 30 or so all around the country. We did a Podfest Asia in the Philippines. We had 200 people there. So we do smaller events, but our flagship right now is Orlando, until we feel confident that we can provide enough value to ask people to spend their hard-earned money to come visit us somewhere else.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And as we wrap up, what words of wisdom would you give to people who want to start a podcast?
Well, my brilliant partner and founder of Podfest, still involved in Podfest, Chris Krimitsos, wrote a book called Start Ugly. And a wise person once told me that if you're not embarrassed by your first 3 episodes or even your first 13 episodes, you waited too long to get started. Just get started, improve your mic. Even if you don't have a mic, turn on your computer, just practice and start ugly.
Okay. And as we wrap up, how can people get a hold of you? Could you put your contact info in the chat for us, please?
Absolutely. Yeah, Nick at podfestexpo.com. I'll put the link right in the chat as well.
Thank you, Nick. That ends our session. And I'm going to turn it back over to our host master.
That was absolutely fabulous. So thank you both for sharing that with us. Now we'd like to open up to audience to see if anybody has any questions for our fabulous presenters, Nick or Fred. Anybody have any questions? Any questions? Don't be shy. Put your hand, there you go. Edith has one.
Thank you, Madam Hostmaster, and to the great speaker and interview. Is there an ideal amount of time for a podcast? What's too short? What's too long?
Well, there used to be. People used to say, keep your podcast short, keep it so it could be listened to within one commute. As the field progressed, people started getting more comfortable starting and stopping episodes, pausing in the middle. And so what we like to say, it's sort of like a piece of string. How long is a piece of string? As long as it needs to be, but not longer than that. And so I would measure it more based on energy. And so if you're feeling like the energy of your show is getting a little tired, you've made your point, you can stop it. But if you record between 20 and 30 minutes, you really can't go wrong. All that said, 20, 30 minutes. But my podcast with my kids was 5 minutes with dad, not 45 minutes with dad, because if you might imagine getting a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old to sit behind a microphone for any length of time is quite the challenge.
Do we have any more questions?
Chia has her hand up.
Yep.
Chia.
Who has
Tanya,
Go ahead.
Chia.
can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't plan to do podcasting for foreseeable future, but then I do appreciate, Nick, you were saying that Start Ugly is definitely inspiring for everybody, and including myself. So when we start, I think we have to kind of have like a equipment, at least some sort of like a microphone or something, but in starting point, I don't want to invest too much. So as I don't want to spend too much time to invest, what if I want some topics I want to share, but easy way to start ugly? Do you have specific recommendation on number one, equipment, and number two, the method, how easily we can start?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are some companies like Riverside.fm where they'll do all the recording. You just sign up for $20 a month or whatever it is. And if you plug in a relatively basic microphone, your sound will be great. There's a microphone called the ATR 2100, ATR 2100. It's about $100. And you could probably get a used one or an older version for $80. I just looked on Amazon, somewhere between $80 and $110. You can find that decent microphone. That said, there's also some software solutions, like, for example, the way you're talking into whatever you're talking now, whether that's your computer, it's a little tinny. It probably would not be something where people say, oh, this is a podcast, but there's software you can run it through. If you just recorded like you're talking now, even just to practice, because you can record without releasing, but even if you just practice, there's a website called Auphonic, AUPHONIC.com. And I think it's free for up to a few hours a month. And all you do is upload your MP3 file there, and it'll make it sound much better. And so with equipment like that, you could certainly do it. And then there's some free software to edit called Audacity, AUDACITY, if you want to cut some ums or ahs or anything in there. But even that, I know Toastmasters, you're all trained really, really well to be succinct with your speeches and not have those ums and ahs. But if one does slip in, you can cut it out. Just like I just did. But at the end of the day, even in a podcast, I don't I don't even bother editing some of those out unless it's overkill.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any more questions for either Fred or Nick?
Edith has one more, it looks like.
I have another question for Nick.
All right.
Have law firms approached you to do podcasts since that's your background, or?
Well, podcasts have approached me more to do content for them. In fact, my law firm, when I quit my law firm, they came back to me years later saying, "You're ghostwriting now," and so I helped them with a lot of content. I have not approached podcast production for law firms, although there is a significant market for corporations, law firms who want to have their people interviewed on a show or produce a show with them. I know several people, in fact, my publishing company, we have a couple authors who make quite a bit of money producing podcasts for corporations, but I haven't pursued that personally.
Any final last minute questions anybody has before we wrap up our Q&A section? It's hard for me to see a hands in the air, so if I don't see any, I just scrolled through. Then we'll go
Okay.
ahead and we'll conclude this portion.